Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello and welcome to Palace Intrigue. I am your host, Mark Francis. If you're new to the Palace Intrigue podcast, let's explain the Kate is Wonderful narrative. In a nutshell, if Meghan does it, Meghan is up to something nefarious. If Kate does it, she's just a relatable soccer mum who is just like you. She's wonderful. About once a week, we recap the latest in Kate's wonderfulness. This week, Kate is so wonderful that her wonderfulness has spilled over onto 21-year-old Meg Bellamy, who plays Kate on the new season of The Crown. We can already tell that Meg has a fantastic publicist. The Daily Mail writes of Meg Bellamy, "She is a hot property for fashion houses around the world who are tripping over themselves to style her. From Cartier suits to becoming the face of Dior, the actress who hails from Wokingham has taken a leaf out of her on-screen character's book in upping the style stakes as she becomes a household name. However, while she may be following in the Princess of Wales' footsteps as a style icon, Meg is carving out her own sleek image, opting for simplicity with chic black outfits and the occasional pop of colour. The Daily Mail revealed this week that the 21-year-old star on the rise has recently signed a deal to become the new face of Dior, a position that was falsely linked earlier this year to Meghan Markle. That's not all. Cartier, Valentino and Jaguar are all deeply enamored with Meg Bellamy. In further signs that her lifestyle has become fit for a princess, she's been a guest at some of society's most glittering events. A Netflix insider told the paper, "They have been queuing up for Meg. She is playing the most famous woman in the world in a globally famous television drama. So many labels and brands want some of that." We're told how stunning Meg looked at the LA premiere of The Crown wearing a Stella McCartney dress with a plunging neckline. A source said, "She's a total unknown, but she is being treated like Kate, an A-list princess." Meanwhile, the real-life A-list Princess Kate had a wonderful week of her own. The Princess of Wales has revealed that her son, Prince Louis, has got involved in her study into children's early years development. Kate looks stunning in a purple Amelia Wickstead suit as she delivered a landmark speech at the Design Museum for the Royal Foundation Centre for Early Childhood, which runs her life's work. Kate shared an anecdote. "Louis' class, they came back with a feelings wheel. It's really good. They go to the classroom," these are 5 or 6-year-olds, "and going with names or pictures of a colour that represents how they feel that day. So there was a real keenness in school, particularly to get involved in conversations. It's actually helping continuity across the board. And then how does that feed into you with your mental health? It's the same conversation. So to be able to find a bit of framework to talk about this is very important." So nice to see it all coming together and different people along with it. All of us are still learning and sharing experiences with each other. The science is really fascinating. It is really. The more you understand, the more you learn, the more fascinating it becomes. Because scientists are always saying we need to get our knowledge, our data translated into public consciousness, and real-life tangible actions that the families are then going to learn from in sectors of health and educators. Kate was asked why she focuses on early childhood and answered, "The answer is because I care deeply about making a positive difference in helping the most vulnerable and supporting those who are most in need. This is not just about the youngest children in our society, who are by their very nature vulnerable. It is also about the many young people and adults who are suffering. We must do more than simply meet the short-term needs of these individuals. We must also look at creating long-term preventative change, and that takes us right back to the beginning. When I have asked my individuals whose lives have reached a crisis point in prison rehabilitation programs, addiction recovery centers, or those affected by homelessness, what would make the biggest difference in preventing similar pathways for future generations, they often talk about providing safety, belonging, and love in early childhood. Australian journalist Jenna Clark discussed how Kate and her husband, the next king, are moving into the modern age. William going to Singapore to talk about the climate, and Kate staying home to focus on events that mean a lot to her, whether it be children, education, early childhood, things like that. I think it's wonderful. They are joint CEOs of the Waleses. It is interesting to see that they've moved it into the next frontier. A lot of people are outraged because they don't get to see Kate in a pretty dress where she's just putting her hard yards and doing her job. Kate and William released a brand new video on their YouTube channel showing a secret trip they took to the Caribbean tour last year where they got to indulge in one of their favorite hobbies. The Mirror described the clip, which shows both William and Kate sporting wetsuits, flippers, goggles, and snorkels as they took part in a special diving experience, which is believed to have taken place last year during the tour of the Caribbean. William and Kate can be seen helping to plant the newly grown coral by diving down below the water's surface, as well as exploring the wildlife on the ocean floor. In the clip, Kate wears her long dark hair tied up in a ponytail and, interestingly, keeps on her priceless engagement ring, which once belonged to Princess Diana. Palace Intrigue will be right back. We'll finish with some amusing stories that we didn't get to during this busy week of headlines dominated by the King's birthday, the Crown, and Omid Scobie's endgame. Former royal butler Paul Burrell told Slingo, "I don't think Charles has the time to create a strong legacy for his reign, unless he goes back to his roots and starts to campaign for the environment, for the homeless, but then it's straying into political territory. As Prince of Wales, he could do that. As monarch, he can't." Paul finds Elizabeth an impossible act to follow, and added that if the late monarch's biography was to be printed right now, it would probably crush the rest of his reign. Burrell said, "I think that would be dynamite right now. I think her legacy is still incredibly strong, so I would crush the King's reign because she is an impossible act to follow. There is much that can be said in the Queen's own words after her passing that would upset the King and Queen. You can bet, if it is written, it will be edited and redacted by the King, so we may never know the real truth." Charles may have many fancy crowns, but as he visited Priscilla Bacon Lodge, he was given a paper crown made by 4-year-old Ariel Bayliss, whose mother, Rebecca Turner, has stage 3 melanoma. The Mirror recaps how little Ariel presented the crown on a blanket after Charles asked, "Is that for me? Thank you very much. Did you put that together?" The youngster made everyone in the room laugh when she took back the blanket and gave it to her mother. And finally, GB News told of some royal PDA describing Queen Camilla as using her frisky hands in Kenya. Kinsey Schofield told GB News, "Camilla's got some frisky hands. I love seeing the King and Queen affectionate. What we want is for these two to lean on each other, love each other, and together be a power couple and to utilize each other's strengths for comfort." And there you have it. If you'd like to email us, our address is thepalaceintrigue@gmail.com. Please follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, or your app of choice. If you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. I'm Mark Francis. My thanks to John McDermott. This is Palace Intrigue, and good times.